But good evening, everyone. Welcome to the town hall question and answer session with the AWHONN nominating committee. My name is Rick Burt, Vice President, Membership and Volunteer Engagement for AWHONN. I'm here to help support the nominating committee and board members in this process. A couple different housekeeping items before we get started. First and foremost, I just remind everyone about AWHONN's event code of conduct and the appropriate or inappropriate behavior that is not acceptable. So if you by chance experience any behavior that is a discrimination or harassment, you are encouraged and expected to report that to our Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, Marketing, Communications, and Meetings, Billy Robinson, or the AWHONN President at the email addresses that are displayed on the screen. And know that the purpose of this is to provide a safe, productive, and welcoming environment. This evening, we have 5 main areas that we will be, that the nominating committee will be addressing. That is the impact of board service, navigating the nominating process, taking time to discuss the board member experience. There will be a question and answer session, and then inspiring a commitment as it relates to serving on the AWHONN Board of Directors. We'll be using Slido tonight for questions. So if you have questions, you can go ahead and drop them anonymously, either by scanning the QR code or join at slido.com, #1610713. And that way, the nominating committee and the current board members that are joining will be able to provide those responses when we get to that part of the program. We will show this again at that time, but I just wanted to share it early on. And at this time, I am going to open the floor for our nominating committee chair, Dr. Shakira Henderson, who will introduce the nominating committee, the board members, and get us started.
Thank you so much, Rick. Happy Tuesday to all the lovely AWHONN members and nurses joining us tonight. As Rick mentioned, today we're talking about empowering change, and we're excited to see that you're interested in joining the AWHONN Board of Directors. Thank you for the town hall. I do want to open up by saying the town hall session aims to inspire and inform potential board members about the rewarding experience of serving on the AWHONN Board of Directors. As you can probably hear from my voice, probably in tune for Valentine's Day, I have the low and sexy because of the flu coming on. So I apologize for my voice today, but it's probably right in tune for Valentine's Day. So the nominating committee will lead this session, and we really encourage active participation and answering of questions so we can foster your interest in the board governance service. Keep in mind, there is no question that is not a good question. We do not believe that any question is incorrect. Ask as many questions or any questions that you would like. We are here for you tonight. So the nominating committee, the 2024 nominating committee, includes Linda, Caitlin, Clifton, Amanda, Holly, Rochelle, Susan, and Odessa. They are your lovely chaperones throughout this process, and really excited to be able to support you this evening. Next slide. Are we good? Fantastic. And these are your phenomenal 2024 Board of Directors. Some of them are here with us tonight. I can't see who's here, but some of us are here. Some of them are here with us tonight, and we'll look forward to be able to connecting with them as well. They'll be able to support us as we talk about being on the AWHONN board. All right. So one of the things I want to start off with before we talk about the impact of board service is really talking about the importance of member involvement in board governance. Why should you as a member get involved in the board, in the AWHONN board? Well, I'm going to give you several reasons. I hope that at least one of them convinces you today to apply for the board. First of all, we have to have representation and diversity on the board. Diverse experiences and perspectives and expertise is needed at the table so that we can have a broad understanding of the various stakeholder interests and perspectives. Secondly, accountability. When members are actively involved in the governance process, they become more invested in the organization's success. And that involvement really fosters a culture of accountability. Third, decision making. Board members play a key role in the decision making process. And so you get to be at the table. One of my famous quotes, and I don't even know who it's from, if it's you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So would love for you to be at the table helping to design the menu. Another reason is transparency. Member involvement really promotes transparency in the governance process, and you get to be really actively engaged and have access to relevant information. Effective leadership, again, all of us as nurses, because we are nurses, we are natural leaders, and therefore we have the ability to have a great contribution on the board. So I hope that some of these very few examples and reasons convince you to want to be a member who is involved at the highest level of the AWHONN organization. So let's talk a little bit about the impact of board service. And I would love to start off. Are there any board members? I can't see. Rick, can you see if there are any board members in the audience tonight?
Yes, there are.
Yay, there's Cheryl. I hate to put her on the spot, but let's start off with Cheryl, really talking about any stories of successful board members and the impact that the board involvement has had in your professional career, your life, or community. And Cheryl, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yay, yes.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I was having problems logging in, but I made it. I don't know if you can see me. Can you see me?
But we can see somebody. I don't know if it's you.
Oh,
but
okay.
let me do the drum roll though. 2024 AWHONN president, Cheryl.
How are you? Hi everyone. I don't know if you can see me. I'm just hopefully you can. But I'm Cheryl Bellamy, I'm so pleased to be with you tonight. I'm joining you from Washington, D.C. from the SMFM conference. So I just ran over here from dinner. So hi, everyone, again. I missed the first part. Shakira, did you want to me to just say hi or?
No, would love for you to talk about any personal or professional benefits that you've had from being on the board. And I think, Cheryl, what is lovely about Cheryl is that Cheryl has had the opportunity to be on the board for a relatively longer period of time, which is nice because I think she is the best person to talk about how she's had personal and professional benefits from that journey. Did we lose you, Cheryl? You're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think I joined as a panelist. I don't know if you can see me now, but maybe you can, hopefully. Okay. There I am. Hi. I can see myself now. So yes, thank you so much again, Shakira. I have been on the board now. This is like serving my third term. So the first 2 terms I was a board member, and now I'm serving as a president. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to serve as president and to engage with the members and really work with the board and the AWHONN headquarters team to really move AWHONN forward in the direction that we want it to go. And during my tenure as a board member, actually, I can go back to that. Like many of you, maybe, I was invited to a meeting and then all of a sudden, hey, let's start planning a conference. I'm like, I was just coming to a meeting just to see how things were. And then all of a sudden you're on the team. And that was by Sue Gendrinos, who used to be a board member as well. I'm from Michigan, so we kind of started that way with a meeting, and then you're on the team, and then it goes from there. So we started with local chapter things in Detroit, and then I moved to being really involved on the state level with AWHONN. And then I really got involved with different committees and opportunities within the organization to really showcase my love for working in OB, women's health, newborn, so the whole spectrum. And I've worked in many different areas of maternal child health and women's health, newborns, peds, all of those kind of things. So through my journey, I've had the opportunity to certainly participate on many committees, such as being a legislative advocate for the state of Michigan on a public policy committee, AWHONN on the Hill, certainly, many other committees, the development committee. And I've loved every moment of it and getting to know individuals within the organization. But not only that, really working to support patients and families and nurses along the way, whether it's speaking at a conference, meeting individuals, speaking in broad audiences and small audiences, and interpersonally with patients and families as well, just about the work that AWHONN is doing. And since I've been here at the maternal fetal medicine conference, I've been connecting with individuals, and the AWHONN's name is known, so, and what the organization stands for, which is really fantastic. So again, it's a pleasure to be here, and my journey on the board has certainly been, I've been able to connect and move the initiatives along with the board members as well. So again, thank you for everyone who is joining today as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cheryl. Now I'm going to pass it over to Sue to talk specifically about personal and professional benefits that being on the AWHONN board has brought.
Hi, everybody. Sue here from California. Currently the section chair of California labor and delivery nurse for 30 plus years. Although I have not been on the board, I am a member of the nominating committee. This is my second year now. And just some of the opportunities, if you do consider joining the board, lots of great opportunities with career advancement, networking opportunities, skill development. I was reading up a little bit, and you can learn to think like a CEO, so that when you are connecting with your C-suite, you're going to be able to understand what they're talking about. You're going to be able to put forth some great ideas, opportunities for your facility organization that you work with to promote women and children's, women and newborns care. You're going to have some experience with budgets too. As nurses, we don't always pursue budgets too much, but you're going to experience the opportunity to, begin to understand how the budgets work for an organization, how AWHONN uses its money from funds that we receive from our membership, and how that is managed. You also have the opportunity to become proficient at raising money, such as like with Every Woman, Every Baby, donating to the different opportunities, being able to help promote our members with opportunities to become emerging leaders, perhaps being able to go to an AWHONN conference if they've never had the opportunity to before. So lots of fundraising opportunities, lots of advocacy. There's the opportunity to go to AWHONN on Capitol Hill. I went last year with the California section, never been to Washington, D.C. before. Absolutely fabulous opportunity. I'm going again in April, so very excited to have that opportunity. And as a board member, you would have that opportunity too. let's see, your lots of opportunities to expand your expand your network, broaden your thinking. For me, being a member of a committee and the section, it's all about meeting people, growing those relationships. And, sometimes you just need that little tap on the shoulder. That's how I ended up as the California section chair. Someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, I think you need to apply. I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I have no experience at all. But I decided, what the heck, what have I got to lose? So I'm very grateful that I had that opportunity. And we have a conference coming up in a couple of weeks, which I've been helping to plan, and we're very excited. We're going to have Shakira there. So it will be great. And, being a member of the board, it's an opportunity to identify what skills, some strong skills you may have, or some opportunities to grow. Perhaps you need to consider taking a class in, some kind of leadership skill, or, you get the opportunity to see where your strengths and weaknesses are. So thank you. I will pass it back to our moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sue. And I think one of the common things that I think Cheryl can help me with this, as we talk about common misconceptions of board service. So one of the biggest things I hear is, I don't have time for this. Will I be able to really handle? And I will tell you, one of the things that's really important to remember about the AWHONN board, which I think is an excellent thing, is that we are a strategic board. So there are very few times that you necessarily have to do hands-on operations. We're asking you to use your nursing brain and really help us design the future. So yes, it's heavy on the brain, but I wouldn't say it's heavy necessarily on the time constraints, because all of you have already invested in AWHONN, and it's pretty much the same sort of investment that you've done in the past. It really is just ultimately culminating to your most important existential experience at AWHONN. So I wouldn't say it's any more time than you're putting in as leaders. I often joke, and Cheryl hasn't probably realized this yet. She's in month 2 of being president. I often joke that as president, I had less power than a chapter leader, and I'm going to go back to being a chapter coordinator because it's really all about strategy and leading the organization into the future. So if you're worried about time commitments, or you're worried that you won't have something to contribute, I would say do not let that hold you back. Every single one of us has the ability to be able to help us craft the future, and every single one of us has something to offer. And in fact, I think the nominating committee would support me in saying that we have historically not had enough diverse voices on the board. Specifically, I'm passionate about continuing to have a staff nurse on the board, passionate about potentially expanding the board to have a parent voice. So there's so many things that you can do. So please do not be afraid about the time constraint. Yes, you will be working, but it's going to be a lot of brain work and a lot of reflection and a lot of engaging, much like you do now as leaders at your section level. Cheryl, any other misconceptions you've heard that was totally dismissed when you went on the board?
I think you caught them all. The time commitment was a mysterious part of when you were joining the board. But as Shakira said, the things that you do now as a leader and a member of AWHONN, you continue to do those. Certainly, there's some other, like some more coordinated meeting times that we have. However, we usually know those very far in advance. So the calendar for the year is set. So months ahead of time what the main meetings for the board will be. Along the way, there might be some opportunities to speak at section conferences and things like that. But typically, it's not like you learn about it today and it's next week. It is very strategic in the planning. And we have a great team at headquarters that really helps navigate us through those things as well. As part of your commitment to the board, certainly as Shakira said, our goal for the board of directors is to be the strategic planners. And the headquarters are more of the operations. And we work well together to make sure that whatever the strategic plan is, we're all in alignment in meeting those. So when it comes to who is on the board and who makes up the board, we have educators, we have bedside nurses, we have folks with background in finance and management. So it's a great melting pot of individuals who bring their tools and their to the board so that we can work collectively together. And leadership development is part of that as well. And because we are all coming from different vantage points, some of us may have more leadership in their background than others. So we work together to kind of carry us all along on the same path so that we are growing together. And if certain individuals have those skills, they're bringing those to the table as well, which is fantastic, because we don't want the board to have everyone with the same background, for example. We need the mixture because everyone has a voice, and the importance of having that voice from the bedside, from management, from a clinical nurse specialist is really important because of the vast differences within the organization as well. So it's really important to bring those voices forward.
And the last point I'll say before we move to the next segment is that if you're worried about coming on the board because, oh my goodness, it's a board, it's so scary, these people are so smart, they're all leaders, I will tell you my honest experience has been a family. There's nobody on the board that I couldn't reach out to. I never felt like there was any question that I couldn't ask. There were several acronyms I didn't know when I first came on the board, and it just felt like it was a group of AWHONN, friends who came together, and I felt really comfortable being able to ask my questions and feel supported. As Cheryl said, you are very well supported. You do get an orientation. It's almost a day and a half of orientation, so you're not coming in blind, and you're very well supported by your fellow board members. You also get a mentor. So in addition to orientation, you have a mentor that can support you through. And I'll be honest, everybody on the board kind of mentors all the new board members coming in. It's really not as scary as people think it is. Sometimes I think we have a little bit too much fun, but you didn't hear it from me, because it's pretty much like just being with your AWHONN buddies that you see at convention every year, except we're just being a little serious and getting some business done. So, that's been my honest experience. And I know Cheryl feels the same way. She can text me at any time. I can text her at any time. It's really not as scary as people think. So I will stop there and have us move forward to the next segment, which I believe Clifton is leading, with navigating the nomination process.
Thank you very much, Shakira, and good evening to everyone that is joining us. I want to acknowledge some previous nominating committee members who started some great work that we are continuing. My name is Clifton Keenan. I am a fellow of AWHONN and previous section chair, committee chair, and second year on the nominating committee. And for time's sake, we're going to go a little bit quick, but I do want to just clarify maybe things that have never been clarified for you before as a member, because I was in the same situation. Hence, I joined the nominating committee. But what is the role of the nominating committee? The nominating committee functions as the secretariat for the organization for all things as it relates to appointments, the elections, the evaluations, and all of the things that encompass the life cycle of that. So we often think of the nominating committee as putting people forward for the slate, but we also actually work on the election and how things go, the evaluation of the process, updating the process, etc. That being said, we want to go on very clear record The nominating committee only utilizes criteria that has been outlined in the bylaws. The nominating committee, as a secretariat for the process, shepherds the process and utilizes the collective experiences and influence of the committee to move people through it. But when it comes down to selecting who goes on the slate, that is largely done from taking the criteria and then slating candidates based on a process that is fair, transparent, and provides feedback. So everyone that goes through the process, if you get slated or not, you get feedback as to why. So just want to clarify that. And then the second thing, or the third thing, I don't know if I'm on the second or the third thing. When we think about quality, sought, and potential board members, the nominating committee has taken a synopsis and has done some preliminary evaluations to look at what is actually needed in the organization. And then we want to match those skills to what currently exists and gaps. We want to ensure that the organization is represented. AWHONN is an organization made up of diverse practitioners, researchers, public health professionals, policymakers, leaders, etc. The board needs to reflect all of the people that it is representing. So diversity across geography, job category, etc. are also included in how we make the decisions. Some of you may ask, how do you determine how many people get slated? And I'm going to tell you, we slate the number of people that meet the criteria, and that is a different number every time. And why is that? The role of the nominating committee is to secretariat the process. The role of members is to determine who they want to represent them. Now, I can't speak for what happened years ago, but what happens now and what's been happening recently is the goal of the nominating committee is to recruit people who have the skills and the competencies that are going to reflect the membership, and we put them forth for the membership to determine who will represent them on the board. All right, couple more things before I turn it back over. When we talk about the application guidelines, the nominating committee's goal is to recruit people, to interest people, to want people to be excited about serving the organization. And we have done a rehaul of the application. And the purpose of the rehaul is the organization, we as members have set the criteria. The application does not need to create undue burden, which we know historically may have prevented people from coming forward. The application is more streamlined than ever. It can be completed in essentially one sitting, and things that are arbitrary, things that are not required, extra things that have been added, they have all been removed. And that's the role of the nominating committee in our evaluation aspect, is to look at things that are keeping people from coming forward or potentially creating barriers for people to fully participate. So for those of you that have maybe used the process before, you will be very happy with what we've done. And this committee will continue to evolve, take feedback, and put quality and improvement measures in place to make sure that overall, whether people are slated, whether people are elected, that this is a positive and upbuilding experience for every member of the organization that decides to take us up on the call. I am going to stop there. I think I've provided a little bit of a background of what we do as a nominating committee. And I'll just put in a plug. If you are unsure whether or not you are interested in running for the board and you just came here tonight to hear about it, if you decide that running for the board is not something you want to do at this time, I would encourage you to consider putting your hat in to be a member of the nominating committee, because it is a committee that ultimately acts as secretariat for our overall governance structure, and it's really, really, really important. So with that said, Dr. Henderson, I'm going to yield it back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Keenan. I appreciate that. So one of the things I will say, I was getting a little bit of palpitations as Clifton was talking about the application, because I remember when I applied, I died 3 times before I completed the application because of the number of essays that we had to write. So I hope that you all will now appreciate the work that the nominating committee has done, because they have really cut down the application to be really essential and important in terms of the requirements that we need. And, you know, I really want to send a huge gratitude to the current nominating committee, because they did a great job in saying, these are the requirements, this is what the application should align to. So if you were ever hesitant to apply before because of the 10,000 essays we had, please feel free to look at the application now and recognize that you can actually do it in one sitting. Unlike me, that died 3 times, came back, was resuscitated, and then, you know, completed my application. So we are very happy that we were able to make that change over the couple of years and finally make it happen this year. So really appreciate that. We do have the opportunity to talk more about board experience. Cheryl, if there's anything that you would like to just clarify or add. I think we kind of got into some of them, but wanted to give you the opportunity. And then I want to make sure that our people, the people who are all applying for the board tonight, have the ability to ask questions, because that's really the point of this town hall.
Okay, just a couple of things, but I think between you and Sue covered this, and Clifton as well, on the board as well, we certainly work on challenging things like decision making that we make, conflict resolution. That's part of what we do as board members, and we always are engaging with members that are from all of the different states in the U.S. And when there are questions, often what happens is individuals will maybe go to a specific board member that they have a relationship with that is in their district. And we bring that information to the board, and we have discussions about things as well. We also have our legal and our fiduciary responsibilities as well. We work with our attorneys and our accounting firm as well, and they also help in the education of board members who may not have a strong finance background, but that is part of our responsibility. So there is a team that helps navigate us through that as well. We have our secretary treasurer, but the goal is for board members to also be knowledgeable on the process as it relates to finance. And that information is provided as well. So I've learned a tremendous amount of information. But if you manage your budget at home, for example, or on your unit, it's just a different kind of budget. So those same kind of questions that you would ask about, well, where's our money going? Are we making money? And are we losing? So all of those kind of questions are still prevalent. So the goal is for all of the board members to work together with the headquarters team so that we as an organization are aligned, and we're being transparent about what we're doing, and any questions and feedback that we can generate from the members is really essential to us moving together. So that's about all I have for right now, and then we can move forward. I think Rick is next, or Shakira. I'll turn it back over to you.
Awesome. I think, Rick, any questions for us? Thank you, Cheryl. And thank you to the team. I think that was very informative. I even learned something again tonight. So really appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Shakira. Welcome, everyone. Rick Burt, Vice President, Membership Voluntary Engagement. I just have 3 slides, just baseline, and then we'll get right now. I see 6 questions in the inbox, and I'll show those in just a moment so that the team can answer them. But the 3 slides I want to go over is just really to do role clarity, board versus staff, just so that everyone has a good measurement and a baseline of where board members play a role in governing and managing the association versus where the staff, the professional staff, based on association management best practices. So essentially, a quick overview just demonstrates, as seen on the screen in front of you, where the board steps in or is engaged, and where the staff is expected to facilitate or implement those plans that the board puts forward. So quickly looking at it as the members have addressed here, governs versus administers, really more along the lines of what is strategic versus what is operational. I think the nominating committee and the current board members have addressed that AWHONN has a strategic board of directors versus an association that may have an operational board of directors. And typically the difference there is you have an operational board of directors where you do not, or you have limited staff involvement that is going to be executing that. And in those instances, you have board members who perform two roles. They are performing the role of the strategic level as well as operationally and engaged in what some might affectionately refer to as in the weeds. In this essence, the staff of AWHONN are the individuals that are charged with being in the weeds and then reporting back on those metrics to the board. So that's a quick overview there on this slide. Some more breakdown if you look at it here based on roles and responsibilities of functions, and then which group is responsible for those functions. Ideally, some that typically come up quickly that I think is points out here. Let's just look at the strategic planning, where you're setting what success will look like and then setting those priorities. The board approves that, and then the CEO and the staff members are charged with executing on that and then reporting back to the board on what those metrics are. Some others there outlined on the left, such as the budget, where the board members approve the budget, and then the staff is responsible for developing and coming up with strategies to meet the expectations around what those budgeted funds might consist of. So typically it's more of a large set number, and then the staff members are responsible for meeting that or making sure you stay within those confines. Similarly, looking down to the list there, membership dues, which is defined in the bylaws. So that not only is what the board will adopt a policy around, but taking instance of how that is spelled out for the members and what the members have dictated to the board to do in their absence as essentially. And that's important to keep in mind. And then there's a couple others there outlined as well that we can talk about at another time, but just wanted to really get that in front of everyone. And then the third slide, a couple additional functions and then which entities are responsible. I think Shakira spoke to this, but board development, that's more along the lines of the board recommending and participating in that process. And then the CEO is typically the individual that will be charged with recommending particular programs to help in that board development. Some areas here that you'll see on this slide really dictate, where the board may have no role. And that entails around staff development, day-to-day operations, personnel policies, staff grievances, and the hiring and terminating of specific staff members. The board has one employee as outlined, and that employee is the chief executive officer. And everyone else at the association reports to and works for the chief executive officer. And that's truly to make sure that separation of powers is maintained, but also that there is a clear distinction of who is responsible on what items might be transpiring to move forward. On that note, I will transition us to the Q&A session. So if you have, these are the questions, and I'm going to open it up for our panelists to answer these. These are the questions that have come in. We'll scroll down to them. I will check them off as they go along, so they'll disappear. But Shakira, I'll turn to you and the rest of the panel on how you may want to proceed with these.
Awesome. And one of the things I think, Rick, great job of just talking about governance. Something else I think that's important to mention, I appreciate that you said, and I think this is not widely known, the board has one employee, which is the CEO. And so some of you may be wondering, how can I give a grievance against Rick, which I've tried to do a million times? Well, the way it works is that the board members would work with the CEO, which is currently Jonathan. And if there's a board member issue, you work with the president. Rick is great though. Don't get ideas, folks. Rick is awesome, but that's how it typically goes. Board members go to the president and the chair of the board. Anything to do with staff issues, you go to the CEO, and the CEO deals with the staff grievances accordingly. So it's very different than most people might think. We don't have the ability to direct staff necessarily. So the first question is, what is the monthly time commitment? That is a very hard question to answer, because I'm going to be honest, it varies. It really varies based on our needs, but I would definitely say minimally, and Cheryl, correct me if I'm wrong, minimally 4 hours a month, minimally, and most intense would probably be 20 hours a month, depending on if we're having meetings in between. And again, if you are on a committee, so for example, if you're on the nominating committee, it's 100 hours joke. It's not 100 hours, but it's a lot more hours a month than ever. And every board member is assigned to a committee. So, I would say that's what makes it to 2 committees. We've upped the ante. So 4 to 20 hours a month is really the time commitment. And it doesn't feel like a lot. I will tell you, the new board members who were on my 2023 board said to me, we feel like we have more time. We need to do more stuff. So as I mentioned, it is a lot less time and commitment than you would do at your section and even chapter levels. It's a lot of brain power, which is a little different than what we're used to. Any other point, Cheryl, would you say?
No, I think you got it, because the meetings are, again, not only with the board, it might be on the other committees that you're serving. So we have, it might be on the legislative committee or development committee. So you have your meetings with those committees as you are the representative from the board.
Awesome. And then how many meetings a month? Again, depends on the 2 committees that you're on. And then the board meets, I believe, 4 times a year. Correct me if I'm wrong. We've changed it so many times since COVID. And now we have 2 virtual meetings and 2 in-person meetings. One of those meetings is at convention. So we've tried to consolidate that to make that happen. So travel is involved. Back in the day when I was on the board, and Cheryl, you had to travel 4 times a year. That was a little intense. And now we, thank God for COVID, we have the ability to do virtual board meetings, which I think has really eased the travel intensity.
And one thing too with the travel, I wanted to just state that there are times when state conferences may ask a board member to present a topic, for example. So that's a little different. So you might go to Colorado to present a topic, and that's based on the needs of the section if they request a board member to come there. But again, it's not necessarily monthly. It's dependent on when the conferences are and what the needs are. And any board member is available or as an option for traveling to conferences.
Fantastic. And how do I communicate with the board of directors? I have a letter I'd like to present. What is the best way to facilitate? I always recommend, just because the president does have an email box, I always recommend that you send the letters or communication to the president's email box. The president personally reads those. So if you do have communication to the board of directors, please send it to the president. And I'm going to try to pull it up so I can give you the exact email address. Rick, do you have it? It's president at AWHONN.
Oh, I think I put leadership in. That may be incorrect. Let me check.
At awhonn.org. But we put that in the chat for you. But please feel free to connect with your president, who is the chair of the board, and she'll be able to, she or he, and now she will be able to facilitate with the board of directors. Cheryl, would you recommend another way, or you think that that will work?
No, that's good. You can also, if you have someone that's in your district, a board member, because sometimes it might be you're at a state conference and maybe there's a board member, you can connect that way as well. And then using the email is certainly a great way to connect in addition to that.
President at A1.org.
Yeah,
Awesome.
president at AWHONN.
I was hoping Clifton would take the next one, but Clifton?
So I'm happy to take the next one, but I'd want to go back to about contacting the board. This is not specifically about the board, but this is about candidates. Historically, there were a litany of restrictions that restricted people on, quote, the campaign trail. Many of them have been dissolved. And where it used to say don't, a lot of it says do. And it is a recommendation and an empowerment that people come to you and present challenges that they have and engage with people that are running so they can make better informed decisions. And as a candidate, it is now your responsibility to create platforms to engage with members while you are actually running for the board. That represents a change that we made last year that is going to continue. So just wanted to add that you can also bring up challenging or concerning things to people running for the board to get their perspective to help you make a decision. As it relates to the next two questions about experiences you should have outside of what is clearly articulated in the bylaws, and there are some things articulated particularly for president-elect, that is the only criteria that we look at as it relates to A1 experience. Now, of course, you have to be a member. You have to be a full member. And, you know, if you don't like that, this is the stuff that you talk to people about and you raise to your president and the leadership at awhon.org. But right now, that currently is in the bylaws, as well as you would have had to chair a national committee, have been a section chair, or previously served on the board for president. I want to double down and say experiences that are similar, or experiences that have given you skills to make you a board member and to be potentially successful on the board, those things are counted. So maybe you've served on a board in another organization. Maybe you've done leadership in other organizations. Maybe you've done leadership stuff outside of nursing in a previous career. All of those experiences culminate into a package. As far as you don't have a DNP or a PhD, there are actually no educational requirements to be on the board of directors, except you have to be licensed as a registered nurse. So I'm going to stop there. I would, and then I guess I'll keep going. You want me to keep going, Shakira?
Yes, please. Yes.
I would like to apply as the first Black labor doula to have a seat on A1's board of directors. I have all of my credentials with prior board experience. And my answer to you is, we would like for you to apply as the first Black labor doula potentially to serve on the A1's board of directors. The term of board members is, the term for president-elect is 2 years as a voting member, 1 year as ex officio. And then the term for other board members is it 3 years, Shakira? 3 years. All right. Will there be 2 or 3 openings given the recent departure of a new board member? Dr. Bellamy.
So currently there is 1 opening. Is that what if that's what you're referring to?
I think they're talking about what we're going to elect. And at this point, what we have put out is that we are electing 1 candidate for president-elect. And Rick, I believe there's 2 candidates for the at-large board.
Correct.
If
So
that
I think the
changes,
question for clarity is, they're currently in this cycle, the board currently has a vacancy.
right.
So is the current board going to exercise its its right, as outlined in the bylaws, to fill that vacancy prior to this election? Or will the current nominating committee be expected to slate someone for that role at this time now? I think that's kind of helped clarify that question.
Okay, and that's we have a board meeting coming up in 2 weeks, and that is going to be one of the topics for discussion, and we will have more information after that board meeting for more definitive solutions for that.
Thank you, President. That being said, whether the board invokes that special right or it goes to election, it does not change our process. It wouldn't change our process at all. So even if the organization decided that we would elect 3 candidates, the election would be updated, not the actual process, because we will slate as many candidates as meet the criteria, and then the members will decide. And then if there's 2 or 3, it'll just go in order of the 3 or 2 highest votes. And registered nurse is required. The term will start the beginning of the calendar year post-election. There will be there has been an orientation historically after the election, but before the official term starts.
Correct.
And
And
that
that
is typically
orientation
in
usually is in November. Yes. Yeah. At the last board
I
meeting.
just hate to say, like, you know, it's going to be,
yeah, it might not be.
So historically, that is when it has been.
Yeah.
The nominating committee will continue to support some form of an earlier election and more inclusive election process than what we have historically done. And the outcomes of opening the election at convention last year was well received and applauded by all of the parties that were stakeholders.
I was going to say, just from a staff support standpoint, that is on the next slide to outline a couple of those key dates. And as of right now, the nominating committee has agreed to open the election on the Monday of the convention.
Excellent. Any other questions, concerns? How many people are going to apply? Put a yes in your Slido. We won't know it's you. It's still anonymous at this point. So I've read that the e-members will soon represent the majority of our members. Only full members can vote. Pretty soon the minority will have less. Yay, we have some yeses. Will have less power. That is correct. That's one of the reasons. Cheryl's gonna nod her head, and Rick has already put in his head up. That's one of the reasons I'm becoming an e-member, because they're a big and nice growing group. But again, this is exactly what the board has to be able to navigate and think strategically about. And we have been discussing this topic for many, many years. And I think we have the ability now to really make some decisions about the e-membership. So if you have some passion around this topic, apply so that your voice can be heard and we can have some diversity in how we solution along that. Fantastic.
So, Dr. Henderson, I'm just going to add that if you are slated for the board and maybe even before, I can almost guarantee you that somewhere along the campaign trail, you may be asked in a public venue, whether it's at a town hall or by a variety of constituents, what your solution is to that dilemma that is part and parcel with our organizational identity and existence right now.
I love it. I believe we eliminated the requirement for letters of recommendation, Rick. I hope I'm not speaking ahead of turn, but
you only have to provide name and contact information for recommendations now.
Oh my God, by all means, upgrade tonight. If you are an e-member, can you upgrade? What is the financial commitment? Well, as board members, you are covered for all of your in-person travel to board required events. Now, I will tell you, the time that you take off to, for example, for the virtual meetings, you have to take off from work, for example, that's not covered. So, you know, that's, I would say, is the only financial challenge. You may have to take PTO or do it on your day off if it works out that way. So that's the only thing I can say that's a challenge. Everything else is reimbursed if you're required to be there as a board member.
I'll add one last one, just that I know it's come up. There are two members of the board that receive a stipend. The president and the president-elect both receive stipends, and those are intended to help offset the time away from their primary job while fulfilling the role and responsibilities of those positions. So that is something that that does take place. They are the only individuals that receive any type of remuneration from the association beyond travel expenses.
Fantastic. And one of the reasons for that is because the president specifically, and the president-elect who might have to step in, has to meet with the one employee, the CEO, on an extremely regular basis, which is very time consuming, as well as service the board. I mean, you are at the service of the board and your members. So the president has to be able to make that time. And the president-elect may have to step in to assist, and therefore the president-elect and the president has a stipend. I'm an associate member. Does this meet the requirements? I believe not, right, Rick?
No.
But here's the good news. You can upgrade tonight.
There you go.
I wish I could say we were running a special, but you can upgrade tonight. Our board members still expected to be platinum donors on Every Women, Every Baby. One of the things that we're discussing as a board, this has come up a lot, and it actually came up in the nominating committee when we were discussing whether being able to give at the platinum donor level should be a requirement. We have, thank you to our president, Cheryl, taken out that requirement. The board also supports that decision. We are currently working to determine how we can redesign that requirement. And it may be that you just give at whatever level you can. It may be that you have the ability to raise that funds. It may be that you decide, okay, I don't want reimbursement. I'm going to go ahead and give my reimbursement towards the platinum donors. I cannot speak to what the solution will be, because there is a board task force working on what the ultimate solution will be. But we are looking at that requirement because we recognize that it is not equitable. And Rick, can you talk about what's an associate member? It's a new member category in the non-voting member designation, similar to an E-member. So an associate member can be somebody like a lawyer, for example, who wants to be part of AWHONN. We have some of our associate members like NAN membership, or am I misspeaking? Or is that my dreams?
That is correct. It is. So AWHONN, I know we're almost at time. I just want to make sure that we have probably 6 more minutes, and we'll make maybe this be the last question, and then we can do the last slide. But just quick reference, AWHONN has 2 types of memberships: voting members and non-voting members. In order to be a voting member, you have to be a registered nurse with full or all members that are registered nurses in the full member category are considered voting members. Every other member category is considered non-voting members. That includes E-members, students, associate members. They are all in that category of membership. That is something, I think, to Clifton, who's on the nominating committee, mentioned. That's something that as a member you don't like. You have to have a conversation with other members, because that requires a bylaws change, which means all members, voting members, have to vote on that. And that would be the full vote, the full members in the full category would vote to make that change. But that would be the mechanism for that to take place, based on amendments as outlined in the AWHONN bylaws.
Fantastic. And Rick, do you want to take the next 2?
Sure, I'll take the next 2. If you're currently serving a leadership position, You are eligible to serve on the board. I would say if you're not the chair of one of those groups, then your path would be seeking an at-large director position. And then the nominating committee would vet and process that application based on the criteria outlined by the board and the nominating committee. Current committee chairperson in you can run as a current committee chairperson in 2024. You just, and the bylaws explicitly outline you can't serve on the board and be on a committee. So if by chance your committee role would cause you to serve in that committee role beyond January 1, 2025, then you would need to make a determination of you then getting elected in June and then resigning that role before you take on your board role, or aligning it in a way to where you can transition directly from a committee role into your new board role.
Fantastic. All right, we are at time 9:01. So would love to be able to move to the last slide so we can get the good people back to their families and friends and
we'll get everybody
their
for 5
bed.
more minutes. I think that's Linda.
Hi, everyone. My name is Linda Kassar. I am my first year on the nominating committee, and I live here in Washington, D.C. area as well, and excited to be here tonight. So we just want to go over a couple of the key dates for you to keep in mind. Application deadline is March 1st, so you have just around a little more than 2 weeks to make your decision. Hopefully you decide to fill those applications out, share all your great knowledge and experience with our membership, and do some great work on our board. Candidates will be notified the week of April 22nd if you've been selected to be on the slate. The slate will be published to the greater membership the week of May 6th. We'll have a moderated virtual Meet the Candidates session for the membership on Wednesday, May 29th. Voting will start during convention. Someone had asked that question on Monday, June 10th, and it will go through, excuse me, Wednesday, June 26th. The results will be released sometime around mid-July. I'm sorry, it's the end of the day and my eyes are getting tired. The print is small. The elected candidates will attend an orientation. I think it was Shakira that had mentioned it would be in November. So here's the date, November 1st and 2nd. And then all of the elected candidates will assume office on January 1st of 2025.
Fantastic.
Over.
So I hope that we have done a good job of convincing you to run for the board. I hope you have already been convinced and you were just here for the question and answer and then the competitive edge. I hope we've been able to offer that tonight. But I would love to end with just gratitude and saying thank you to the nominating committee, to our illustrious President Cheryl for joining us, to the wonderful staff members, Rick and Nick, who have supported us tonight, and then to the almost 14 candidates for the board that we see on tonight. Thank you for spending an hour with us. I know time is precious and it's a gift, so we are very thankful for your participation. If there are any further questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to Rick, and that's rburt, R-B-U-R-T, at awhon.org. All of us on the nominating committee are open to questions. So if you would like to have a one-on-one with any one of us, we're happy to service you in the process. So please apply March 1st. I know we said we cut the application down, so you might try to start at 10 p.m. on February 29th. Please don't do so. Try to at least give it 24 hours, but we assure you can get it done. Thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your February and happy Valentine's Day in advance. Have a good one, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.